Good day, dear students. We were talking about Shakespeare's Hamlet and the story being told to the tribal people, and Laura is continuing with the story. Here, there is a lot of clash between the two culture. That is the culture of the Western countries and that of the African tribe. Laura is trying to abridge that gap through her storytelling because if she narrated the story as such, they will not understand because there are a lot of things and relationships and even customs which they do not have and will not be understood by them. So she is trying to make it as native as possible. That is the story of Shakespeare's Hamlet being narrated in the way the narration is done by the Thai people. So she had come to the come to the part where Hamlet's friends told Hamlet that they have seen his father's ghost appearing before them, but the ghost did not speak to them. So here, Hamlet really wanted to talk to his father as to why he is going around like a ghost. So Hamlet's dead father or his ghost appears to him and tells him that his own brother had poisoned him. Moreover, he wanted Hamlet to avenge him. So it is only natural for the father to ask his son to take revenge on the people who had killed him. So Shakespeare had introduced the ghost here because nobody knew how this king was killed and the way poison was administered to him. This is why he had appeared as a ghost. So Shakespeare has his own reasons to make a ghost appear in the play, and the groundlings really appreciated that part. So Laura introduces Polonius as an important elder. Hamlet was courting, or even in the modern times, the wording will be dating his daughter. That is the daughter's name I have already mentioned, that is Ophelia. So Polonius is introduced as an important elder, and the group listening to the story shook their head as if agreeing to that part. That is, as an elder, an important elder is always welcome. And he was courting his daughter. Both Polonius and his son Laertes warned her that Hamlet could not marry her since he would be a great chief. You will read about it in pages 66 and 67. The reason is that Polonius knew that Hamlet will be king one day. So he may not continue with his relationship with Ophelia, and Ophelia will be discarded. And that Polonius and her son, they are concerned about about Ophelia, and Polonius felt that she will not be accepted by any other man because she had been in a relationship with Hamlet. So naturally, no one will marry her if she is discarded or she is abandoned by Hamlet, because as a king, he will not be marrying Ophelia because Ophelia is not up to his level or to be a queen or of that nobility. Maybe because of that. So this is why both father and son they were totally against Hamlet courting Ophelia, and so they tried to warn her that Hamlet could not marry her since he would be a great chief. Okay, so this reasoning is indeed something that Laura put forward to this audience. Again, more interruptions from the crowd, from the listening crowd. Sorry. And here the clash between their customs and the customs of the tribe come to play. That is, there is a lot of clash between the customs and naturally they can understand why the chief will not marry an ordinary person's daughter, and so naturally it is understood. So the customs of the time is totally different. They override the difficulty by offering presents and patronage to make up. So if Hamlet becomes the chief and he is not marrying Polonius's daughter Ophelia, then he should offer presents and patronage to make up for the loss or even whatever that had happened to her. So, in a way, this is something that they had to take up and understand and keep it within that community. No one will, or the woman will not say anything against that. And moreover, they regard Polonius as a fool because earlier also there was that question of Polonius interrupting and Polonius meddling. And later also you will find that Polonius is a person who just do not have much intelligence or and even much responsibility, and he is regarded as a fool by the whole group. Laura agrees with this idea because Laura also accepts the fact that Polonius is indeed a fool. So Polonius had sent Laertes off to Paris to the homestead of a very great chief, and that is the King of France, because the king, the term king, is translated in a different manner in their culture, and so it is a very great chief. Okay, so this is for Laertes to learn something from the king and from the court, and he had also sent someone to look after Laertes and to report on Laertes. This is what Polonius did to his son. And it is at this time Hamlet meets Ophelia, but Ophelia was very much in love with him. And instead of the beautiful words that she expects, Hamlet behaves oddly, means in a very strange manner, and pretending madness. And this Hamlet frightens her. So Ophelia was frightened by the Hamlet that she meets now, who behaves oddly, pretending madness, and she was frightened of the change in her lover. When Hamlet talked, one could understand the words, but not what they meant. He spoke as if it is perfectly legible, but at the same time, nobody knew what he meant by those words. So those words were not understood by the people. But Hamlet was talking in this manner because he was pretending madness, and he had the aim of pretending madness and thus watching the present king, that is his uncle Claudius, and knowing from him what he had done, or trying to get information from him as to how he killed his father. Laura's audience suddenly became much more attentive because this idea of madness is something that they are curious about. So, the audience, when they heard Laura mentioning Hamlet pretending madness, they became all the more attentive. So, here you have a lot of things to consider, and it is something that Laura had come to understand in her storytelling way, that it is proper to use the words that they are familiar with. And this word of pretending madness is something that they are familiar. Um, The great chief sent two of Hamlet's age mates, that is, school friends, to talk to him and find out what troubled his heart. The great chief here means Claudius, who is now the king, and he wanted to know what is there behind Hamlet's madness. He thought that it is real, but at the same time he had some doubt, so he decided to send two of Hamlet's age mates, that is, the term age mates corresponds to school friends, to talk to him and find out what troubled his heart. But Hamlet, knowing that they were sent by the great chief, evades them. But again, you will find that the story progressed, and Polonius insisted that Hamlet is mad because he had been forbidden to see Ophelia, whom he loved. And we all know that Polonius is a fool. And the foolish father thinks that because Hamlet is so very much in love with Ophelia, and that he was forbidden to see Ophelia, he had turned mad. Hamlet loved Ophelia, And when he was forbidden to see Ophelia, it had really made him mad. The foolish Polonius tried to believe that. The question from the audience comes, why should anyone bewitch Hamlet on that account? Why should anyone bewitch? Because they believed that Hamlet is mad because someone had used the witchery, or they had bewitched Hamlet, and only because of that Hamlet became mad. So, why should anyone do that? And in page 68 and 69, you'll read a lot about this conflict, because only witchcraft can make anyone mad, or one sees the beings that lurch in the forest. The idea of the group is that a person can be mad if witchcraft is made on him, or witchcraft is played on him, or if one sees beings that lurch in the forest. On hearing this part, that is, seeing the beings lurch in the forest, Laura suddenly stopped being a storyteller and reverted to the role of a researcher. She immediately took out her notebook and pen and tried to get as much information about the madness that is caused by seeing beings that lurch in the forest. This is what they believed. So she asked them about these two causes of madness and started jotting down details in her notebook: witchery and seeing the beings that lurch in the forest. Seeing the beings, certain beings, or somebody must have seen something in the forest which had frightened them, and this in turn had caused madness. So maybe they have their own idea. So Laura started doing her research and started asking about the causes of madness and jotting down these details she got in her notebook. She now starts analyzing their reasoning for the cause of Hamlet's madness and reaches the right conclusion. The relatives in the male line could bewitch him. This is what the Thai people believed, that the reason for madness, according to them, there are only two reasons, and one reason is that one is witchery, and only the male relatives can bewitch him, not women but male relatives can bewitch him. And Laura is now analyzing their reasoning. The other is if one sees any beings that lurch in the forest. So, taking the first reason, that witchcraft, she also gets information from them that the madness can be caused by the witchery from the male line, or the witchery caused by the male relatives. In Shakespeare, of course, it is a relative, and that to a male, and that is none other than Claudius. Claudius, his uncle. So, it is as simple as that. And Laura now solved the mystery and found a common link with Shakespeare's Hamlet, and also the people in that particular village, in the African village. And so, in a way, the reasoning is quite apt, trying to read Hamlet through their eyes and through their reasoning. This is what is happening now. Instead of telling the story to the people and adapting the story to their language. So here you find that Laura pushes aside their questions and continues with her storytelling. So his age mates had brought with them a famous storyteller. This is a reference to uh, the traveling people who staged plays. So instead of staging plays, they don't have such a term. She uses the term storyteller. So Hamlet arranges with this man to tell the chief, that is the king, the story of a man who poisoned his brother, which is exactly Hamlet's father's story. So Hamlet arranges with the traveling the troupe of drama people, and tries to tell this man to create a play, or to entertain the chief, that is the king, with the story of a man who had poisoned his brother. as his father, the ghost, had told him, he gives this man all the details, and this man is to stage a play where the storyline is to be Hamlet's father's story. So he is watching when the story is being played, when there is entertainment in the court before the king's court. The dramatists were the traveling dramatists were playing out the scenes, and he Hamlet was not watching the play. He was watching the face of the chief or the king, that is his uncle Claudius. So his idea was to check if the story of the ghost is true or not. He really wanted to see if what his father or father's ghost had told him is true or not, because he is not ready to believe whatever the ghost had told him. He is not that impetuous. He really wanted to check the facts because there is no other way to verify the facts, because no one had seen or heard or even knew of Hamlet's father being poisoned. And it is not through food, because there will be food, someone to taste the food, so naturally it is not through the food. So how did the king, that is Hamlet's father, get poisoned? And only the ghost of the father could tell him the full details. So he narrates all the details as to how he was poisoned and in which manner, everything. So Hamlet gives this information to the itinerant storyteller or the dramatist, here the storyteller, and asks them to perform before the chief the story that he had given them, which is Hamlet's father's story. So the storyteller agreed to do that, and Hamlet's idea was to check if the story of the ghost is true or not. So again, interruptions from the old man, because Laura was very comfortably telling the story, and suddenly she was interrupted by the old man, and that too with a deep cunning. He asked the question, "Why should a father lie to his son?" Usually, father just do not lie to the son, or the son should not suspect that the father is lying to him. All these meanings are just put into this one question. Laura deftly evaded that question because she has no answer for that, and moreover, she just do not want to go into the detail of the father lying to the son or the morality of that or things like that, because maybe it is different culturally. The old man explains about what a man who sees the truth could have told him, because in their tribe there is a man who sees the truth. That could be a magician or someone who can really see into the real truth. Maybe such a person exists in the group, in that particular tribe. So the old man told her, why should he test and verify the truth told to him by his father's ghost? He could have used the help of a man who sees the truth. Each tribe has got such a person, or so the old man believes. And this man, that is a man who sees the truth, that is a man who sees the truth is a person like a magician or even a medicine man. Such persons would have could have told him the truth. So why should he put it to test in this manner by the storyteller narrating the story and then watching the reactions of the chief? Because to them it is as simple as that. Laura has no option except to agree to a witch sent omen, because maybe this is what it is, a witch sent omen, because they won't agree to an omen and she won't agree to an omen, and witch definitely out of question. So the translation for a ghost will be a witch sent omen. So Laura has to agree to this narration or to this translation for a ghost. Okay, instead of saying the dead chief's ghost, she used the term a witch sent omen, because that seems to be the most apt, and the group seemed to agree upon that. she continues her story. So, continuing that story, she speaks of the king's reaction to the storyteller's story, confirming Hamlet's doubts. Hamlet had doubts as to whether it is true or not, but seeing or watching the face of the king, watching the king's reaction to the storyteller's story, Hamlet was cleared of his doubts. And that is the storyteller performing before the court is the play within the play, the famous play within the play in Hamlet. Hamlet is a play, and within that play, there is a play by the dramatic troupe who came to visit the court. Usually, they come and perform, and Hamlet had given them a story. They had acted out that story before that court. So, play within the play is indeed something that Shakespeare uses, and the audience also enjoyed that. And this technique is used in order to get the truth from the king, that is the present king, that is Claudius. So Hamlet is indeed watching the reaction of the king and the storyteller's story and the change of the face of the king and his reaction. He was so very angry and did not wait for the play to be over. He just goes away and dismisses all the players, all the people who were playing the role. So that confirmed Hamlet's doubts about the reason or the main culprit behind his father's death of poison by poisoning is indeed the king, the present king Claudius. But here, Laura had to proceed with the caution because she proceeded to translate the next scene of the play Hamlet to her audience. She narrated how Hamlet's uncle asked Gertrude, that is Hamlet's mother, to find from her son how much he knew of the death of his father. Because now Hamlet's uncle is really troubled. He knew that if Hamlet knew that he is the one responsible for his father's death, then he will take revenge, which means that Hamlet is a threat. So he wanted to know how much he knew, how much Hamlet knew of the death of his father. For this, he asked his wife, the present wife, that is the former queen, to ask her son to know from the son that whether it is really the truth or not. And so here you will find it is something that she is to understand from her son and later reveal it to her husband, the present husband. The king had asked Polonius to hide in the queen's room while she talked to her son. So here you find that he is not even trusting his wife Gertrude, but again asked another person, Polonius, to hide in the queen's room while she talked to her son, so that Polonius can tell the king what the son had revealed to the mother, because the king just do not trust his wife. Hamlet comes to his mother's room and seeing the curtains moving, pushed his sword through it and accidentally killed Polonius, who was hiding there. So, as per the king's direction, Polonius was hiding in Gertrude's room and he was hiding behind the curtains or the cloth that was hanging before the window, and behind that cloth he was hiding. And Hamlet comes to his mother's room, and when he was about to tell his mother the reason, he found the curtains moving, and he thought that something is hiding there. So, in order to save his mother, he just used his sword and pushed the sword through it, and accidentally, he did not know that Polonius was hiding, and the sword was just pushed through, and it struck Polonius, who was hiding there, and killed him accidentally. So most of the storyline was translated by Laura. So Laura was translating the storyline, and almost everything was translated. When he entered the room, Hamlet started to scold his mother for what she had done. This is how it continues. That is, he is now confronting his mother, and he really wanted to know from her why she had acted as she is. you will find that it is in a way something that they had to come to terms with, because he never got the time to ask her why she got married so quickly, and why did she marry this uncle. All these are questions that were there in his mind, and it had been tormenting him. So now that he is quite alone with his mother, he entered her room and started scolding his mother for what she had done. Like what she had done in the sense that being accompanied to the uncle to poison her former husband, and also to marry the uncle within a short time of the death of her former husband. And so Hamlet started to scold. The term Laura uses is scold, not ask. Okay, asking is one and scolding is another thing. So the term that Laura uses is scold, and this is very important because she is narrating the story, and the story is being translated or narrated to the group, the African tribal group, where the elders are respected, and even the mother also. So the son started to scold his mother. This is very important because this is not the way to behave, and as such, this term is something that slipped Laura, and maybe this is how it should be paraphrased, because this is exactly he demanded explanation from his mother for what she had done. Maybe that is why Laura used the term scold here. So here is something that Laura did without knowing the consequences. So when Hamlet entered his mother's room, he started to scold his mother for what she had done. So the storyline is progressing in this manner. So again, you find that it is something that will have a reaction from the audience, and the audience really waited. And Laura had just paraphrased that using the term scold, and reactions started coming in. And this is something that you'll have to read in the book and wait for the next class. Thank you.